They've worked just as hard to create that as they have that. Why wouldn't I want to create income from this? Well, one of the best ways to do it is to have life insurance equal to whatever the equity position is. Then I can have the freedom, the flexibility, and control they enjoy. That make sense? Yes. Okay, good. All right. Questions about this? I'm going to do one thing, and we'll take a break. Now, how do we take all this we just talked about, these 9 principles? How do we now use them in front of the client? Grab one of the blank model. Okay. And I did this for the group up in Virginia back in December, and Greg Yearwood sent me a PowerPoint that I'm going to share with everybody. There is such a thing as an ideal model. Compliance won't let me say perfect, so I got to say ideal. Okay? There is such a thing as an ideal model. Now, how do we educate clients? How do we educate prospects of what an ideal model looks like? Here's what I want you to do. Okay? You need to practice this, get good at this, etc. Because it's one of the things I use in every opening. If I'm going to be your educator, we've got to have a what? A standard. What are we trying to get to? Well, we're trying to get to perfection. What is perfection? It's an ideal model. Okay? So, what I want you to do is take this blank model and across the top I want you to put ideal model. Put it down. So let's talk about the characteristics of the ideal model. In the protection component, first 9 drawers, if we're trying to eliminate failure, every one of those 9 drawers should be filled up to capacity, maximum benefits. Now, when you talk to people about maximizing their protection, most of the time the first thing that comes to mind is, I've got to pay more to do it. No. If we're creating the ideal model, you should have the maximum benefits, but you ought to be able to have it at what? Minimum cost. That would be ideal. Now, Jason, this is typically where I will stop and I'll bring to the client's or the prospect's attention and say, think about the companies that sell the products that go in those 9 drawers. Think about the advisors. Think about all the advertising. Think about all the training of those advisors. Is that what they're training the consumer to learn how to do? Maximum benefits at minimum cost? Or is it the opposite? How to have minimum benefits and pay the companies what? Maximum. So see, what happens is the world we live in regards to protection, is saying do this, and that's what's in the best interest of who? Financial institutions. I don't care about them. I care about my clients. That's why my clients, that's why your clients need you to teach them how to turn the tables to where they can have maximum benefits at minimum cost. Does everybody understand that? Next, as we go to the savings component, what would be ideal? We talked about these first 6 drawers of savings, S1 through S6. That is the parking lot of the model. Now, we know our clients should have monies parked for things like, is that me or is that word? Oh, thank you. Is that better? You like that better? That's better. That's right. How's that? Is that okay? Good. All right. They should have money parked for things like emergency purchases. Will and I were talking to a young couple that we're working with right now. They're getting ready to buy a new home. They built up a bunch of money in savings because they're going to use that as part of their down payment. People should have money set aside for repairs. And while it's sitting there, this is very important. While it's sitting there, it should be safe. It's got to be liquid and available. And certainly until we need it, we want it earning some interest. But here's something that's really equally important, is this: not too much. Not too much. And I'm finding more and more of this lately. meeting with clients who have significant amount of money set aside above their emergency goals, above their down payment goals, above their short-term liquidity goals. And you know what they tell me? When I ask them why it's sitting there, what do you think they say? I don't know what else to do with it. I've done what everybody else has told me to do, and it hadn't worked out, right? So I'm afraid of making a mistake. They've gone to the sidelines. One of the beauties of the model is the ability to show clients, well, if you didn't keep it on the sidelines and you actually put it somewhere in the model, we could show you what would happen if we put it down in the growth component, or we took it and paid off debt with it, or we used it to go and do better from a protection standpoint, or maybe, Jonathan, a little bit of all the above. Now you're educated and you can decide what to do with it. Isn't that awesome? Next, in the savings component. People love putting money into the bottom 3 drawers of savings. Reason being, when you look at the accumulation phase of their life, they're building wealth, they're accumulating wealth in those 3 drawers with what? No tax. No tax. Awesome. The problem is when you take those 3 drawers to the distribution phase of life, now all of a sudden, when I have to pull it out, I got to pay the tax. Okay? Those of you in Charlotte have heard me, but I like to use the analogy with the clients, it's like wetting the bed. Feels good at the time, but eventually you got to wake up and do something about it. Okay? So when I try to help clients understand from an ideal standpoint, certainly we want to build wealth in those 3 drawers. But here's my question. Do you have exit strategies currently in place that would allow you to minimize or avoid taxes when you pull the money out? Don't have that. Good, then I think I can help. Next. We're going to go to the growth component. And we talked about there being 3 things that would make the ideal or the perfect growth component. One is the opportunity for maximum rates of return. Number 2 is going to be minimum amounts of risk. And number 3 is going to be minimum amount of taxes. So when we look at their non-qualified or portfolio, we look at real estate, collectibles, their business, etc. What are they doing to get their model in that area closer to ideal? Lastly, when we go to the debt window, obviously we'd love for them to be out of debt, but until we get there, we want them to have what kind of debt? Good debt. What are the 3 characteristics? Low interest, deductible interest, and a loan schedule that benefits the client. Now, one of the things for the group in Charlotte that I've done, and I would encourage you guys, if you're interested, maybe we can talk to Graham about doing this, is I took the ideal model and it's laminated. Okay? They all have it to take with them on meetings. Okay? Because they can now focus more on the language and the stories, Robbie, than remembering what to write down. Does that make sense? And what I use this for, okay, with my clients is I simply set it down on the table and everything they're doing in their model, come on just a second, we simply compare it to what? Ideal. What are you doing that's getting you closer to ideal? What are you doing that's getting you further away from ideal? The things that are getting you further away, we got to work on. The things that you're doing that's getting you closer to ideal, keep doing it. Does that make sense? All right, any questions? Yes?
Going back to the parking lot.
Yes.
What happens when you have, there may be some clients who may put in a lot of money, but they've had some unpleasant experiences in the past, financially, whether it's through markets or elsewhere, and they kind of like to take, they feel it's a cushion, they feel comfortable with it. So that's why they have excess. How do you?
That's fine. Again, Robin, one of the things that I think is very important, okay, is the fact that I can't ever take away the fact that this is not my model. Are you with me? So my goal is not to convince the client to do to their model what I would do if this was my model. Does that make sense? Okay. My position, my role with them in our relationship as the educator is basically to say, here's what your model is. Here's what ideal is. Here are the things that are ideal. Keep doing. Here are the things that are, as you can see, are getting further away from ideal. Now, if you're more comfortable taking and keeping more than, for example, 50% of your income in savings, do it. Or maybe what we would do is we'd have different tiers of savings. Maybe we'd have a tier where we keep maybe 50% in the parking lot, but we do something down here in the non-qualified account. Well, we can certainly get our hands on it if we needed to, but at least it's giving us an opportunity for what? For growth. Okay? Or maybe we take some of that and we pay off some debt, which would free up some cash flow to either go back and build that back up or go down. See, there's so many what ifs. Okay? So again, there's not a right or a wrong. It's simply saying, here's what it is. Okay? Here's what ideal is, and what can we do to help you get closer? Does that answer your question? Other questions? All right, you guys have been great. Let's take we'll make it a quick 5-minute break.